An unexpected dinner guest. The surprising turn of events with my husband's old friend. My name is Claire. I'm 52 years old, a woman living a quiet life in our small suburban home, where each morning I tidy up the kitchen while the radio plays old familiar songs. My days revolve around simple things: tending the backyard garden, preparing warm meals, and keeping this home a peaceful place. Daniel and I have been married for over 27 years. He's a good man, steady, dependable, always on time. But as time tends to do, it's wrapped our marriage in a kind of stillness. There's no shortage of love between us, but lately I've started to feel like a part of me has slowly drifted into sleep. Please remember to give the video a thumbs up, share your insights in the comment section, and subscribe to keep up with our newest narratives. On that Thursday evening, the atmosphere was imbued with a serene stillness typical of spring nights, where the delicate fragrance of lilacs mingled with the scent of freshly cut grass, allowing the world to decelerate just enough for one to pause and inhale deeply. In the heart of the kitchen, with an apron tied snugly around my waist, I found myself humming a gentle tune from the radio as I stirred a pot filled with my husband's beloved stew. Nothing particularly unusual, merely an ordinary evening meal at home in our snug, somewhat worn abode nestled in the suburbs. Daniel, my husband, occupied the living room, engrossed in the game. His voice would occasionally swell with frustration or soar with delight, a reflection of the team's performance. It was one of those easy days shared between us, the sort that slips from memory yet leaves a lingering ache when it fades away. That moment, the doorbell chimed. I wiped my hands on the apron, casting a sidelong glance at Daniel. "Did you anticipate the arrival of another?" He furrowed his brow, silencing the television. And oh, I was not. As I approached the front door, a sense of curiosity washed over me. I turned the handle and swung it open, revealing a tall man in his early 60s, his expression marked by a sheepish smile. Clad in a weathered leather jacket, he grasped a bottle of red wine in one hand while the other clutched a small duffel bag. His hair had turned predominantly gray, yet a certain youthful spark lingered in his expression, playful and almost impish. "Greetings, Mike," he remarked with a friendly smile. "It has been quite a while." As he approached, a spark of recognition ignited on Daniel's face. "Absolutely not, Doug." Richard, with a soft chuckle, he stepped forward, embracing with warmth. Doug was an old college friend of Daniel's, and he even stood as his best man at our wedding. It had been over 2 decades since our paths last crossed. The last I knew, he had relocated to Oregon, embarked on a new business venture, experienced a divorce, and then seemingly faded away from our lives. Daniel gave him a hearty clap on the back, the warmth of their familiar bond radiating between them. "What brings you here, my friend?" Doug offered a casual shrug, a smile playing on his lips. As I found myself nearby, I thought it would be a good idea to pay a visit. "I understand that this may come as a surprise. I trust this request isn't too burdensome." "Not at all," I replied, my smile warm and inviting. "You've arrived just in time for the evening meal. I ended up preparing in excess, after all." Doug entered, absorbing the house as if it were a long-forgotten memory waiting to be rediscovered. Yet, beneath the veneer of humor and charm, there lingered a subtle heaviness within him. A weariness hung in his gaze. "I have not inquired. Not at this moment." We gathered around the venerable oak dining table, the three of us engaging in conversation and laughter as if the years had melted away. Doug recounted vibrant tales from our college days, some familiar, others new to my ears, as we all savored our wine, feeling as though we had returned to our 30s once more. Yet, I observed a distinct change. Doug observed me more than I anticipated, not in an inappropriate manner, but with a certain softness, a hint of curiosity. Initially, I attributed it to a sense of nostalgia. Our rapport had always been strong, even in those earlier days. Yet there was an intensity in his gaze that lingered, a sensation that I was truly seen, as if he were not merely recalling the woman I once was, but recognizing the person I had become. After dinner, Daniel discreetly stepped away to engage in an extended phone conversation with one of his brothers. Doug and I found ourselves in the living room where the soft glow of the lamp stretched shadows across the polished hardwood floor. I filled our glasses once more with the rich, velvety wine. "You know," Doug remarked, swirling his glass gently, "you haven't changed much." A gentle laugh escaped my lips. "Your vision may require a professional assessment. Each morning, the reflection reveals a different truth." "I'm not referring to your face," he remarked. "Your presence, I mean. The light within you remains ever bright." His voice carried a gentle sincerity. I found myself at a loss for words. A warmth surged within me, not from the wine, but from the manner in which he uttered those words, raw, candid, and strikingly open. "I'm pleased you decided to visit," I finally remarked. "Time is stretched on endlessly. Indeed, it feels quite prolonged." In that moment, silence enveloped us, a stillness that often breeds discomfort. Yet with Doug, it resonated with a profound sense of completeness. An unspoken tension lingered in the air between us, poised and expectant. "I needed this," he remarked after a brief pause. Truthfully, my presence in the vicinity was no mere coincidence. This was meticulously orchestrated by me. Recently, I've found myself adrift, and I wondered if returning to something known might provide solace. I examined him intently in that moment. The fatigue in his gaze transcended mere travel. It was existence, the sort of erosion that seeps into your spirit after enduring an abundance of tempests. "You are always welcome here, Doug," I said softly. He gazed at me, his eyes deepening with tenderness. "My sincere gratitude. Its significance surpasses your understanding." Just then, Daniel re-entered the room, and the fleeting moment slipped away, yet a change had occurred. I experienced it deeply, a delicate undercurrent flowing through all things, and I remained blissfully unaware of its destination. Yet, I was aware of this. On that night, an unspoken beginning unfurled. Neither an affair nor a betrayal, but rather a profoundly human experience, a reconnection that reflects aspects of myself long forgotten. As I settled into bed that night, nestled next to my husband, who was already lost in slumber, my thoughts drifted to Doug's eyes, pondering what it was he truly perceived in me. Silence enveloped the morning that followed. Daniel departed at dawn to assist his cousin with a roofing project, leaving Doug and me in solitude within the house. It was never part of my design. To be honest, it hadn't crossed my mind at all when Daniel brought it up the previous evening. As I stepped into the kitchen, the sight of Doug at the table, nursing a cup of coffee in that same wrinkled shirt from yesterday, took me by surprise. "Morning," he said, glancing up with a gentle smile. "Morning," I responded, wrapping my robe more snugly around me. "Did you sleep well?" He nodded. "Superior to what I've experienced in weeks." "Your couch is surprisingly comfortable," I said with a light laugh. "That couch possesses enchanting abilities. It has saved more than a few souls seeking solace." A moment of stillness enveloped us as I filled my cup with coffee. In that instant, I became acutely aware of the house's tranquility. No television, no Daniel, only the gentle buzz of the refrigerator and the soft clatter of ceramic mugs. Doug cast his gaze out the window. The tranquility remained, just as he recalled. It felt as though time had stood still, yet everything had shifted beneath the surface. I took a sip. That's the essence of life in your 50s. Both familiar and strange in equal measure. He turned his gaze toward me, that same quiet intensity lingering in his eyes. "Have you ever pondered the journey that brought us to this moment? The paths we chose, or perhaps the ones we avoided?" I rested against the counter. "Occasionally. However, moderation is key. That road can get a little heavy." Doug nodded slowly, as if he comprehended the weight of those words all too well. After breakfast, we decided to take a stroll. In a moment of necessity, I found myself needing to venture to the market, and Doug graciously offered to accompany me on this errand. The sun shone brightly yet softly, weaving its way through the trees, carrying with it the gentle warmth of late morning that whispers of summer's approach. We meandered along the extended route through the park, gliding past the tranquil pond and the venerable oak trees. The tranquility enveloped the surroundings, rendering small talk unnecessary. "I nearly picked up the phone to call you once," Doug remarked as we settled onto a bench. "It was years ago, right after my divorce." I picked up the phone and dialed the number, yet I found myself hanging up before the call connected. "Why didn't you call?" I inquired, a spark of genuine curiosity lighting my voice. He merely shrugged. "I suppose I didn't quite know what I was searching for, and I didn't want to complicate things." Complicated. I turned to face him. "Doug, I'm not someone you need to shield from your chaos. We all carry our own burdens." He let out a soft chuckle. "I understand. You have always been a beacon of light in my life. Even in our youth, you radiated a warmth, a kindness that was unmistakable." It stirred something within me, a whisper of potential to become a better version of myself. His voice trembled slightly as he spoke, and it took me by surprise. I found myself at a loss for words. A part of me yearned to offer solace, much like one would to a dear friend navigating a difficult moment. Yet, a different part of me, one that had lain dormant for years, yearned to embrace the connection blossoming between us. I extended my hand and brushed against his, if only for a fleeting moment. It was a reflex, not a deliberate choice. Yet, he regarded me as if that simple act held the weight of the world. "Doug," I spoke softly, "you needn't bear this burden by yourself." He met my eyes for a fleeting moment. "Neither do you." That lingered in my thoughts. We strolled home in quietude, our fingers grazing occasionally, yet the unspoken lingered between us. Upon reaching the house, I prepared lunch, and we donned the familiar masks of laughter and storytelling, sidestepping the weight of the morning's tension. When Daniel arrived later that day, Doug effortlessly transitioned back into his old buddy persona. He was boisterous, amusing, tossing out quips about the football team, and teasing Daniel about his receding hairline. It felt effortless, once more, on the surface. Yet, beneath that veneer, a change had occurred. Later that evening, after Doug had settled into bed, I returned to the couch, where I had placed an extra pillow for him. As I stood at the sink, I washed the final dishes, lost in thought. Daniel had already succumbed to slumber, weary from the day's toils. The window above the sink stood ajar, inviting the refreshing night air inside. I relished the gentle caress of the breeze against my skin and allowed my eyes to flutter shut for a fleeting moment. All that occupied my mind was the way Doug had gazed at me. Not as a figure from his past, but as someone he still yearned to comprehend. It wasn't love, not just yet. It wasn't even a romance. Yet it was something more, authentic, evocative. Surprising, it stirred a curiosity within me about the emotions I had neglected to acknowledge throughout the years. The following day arrived with a weightiness, as if the very atmosphere of the house had thickened with unspoken words. Doug lingered for breakfast once more. He maintained his usual politeness, helpfulness, and charm. Yet, beneath that familiar facade, there lingered a subtle quietness, a palpable distance. It was as if he were making a concerted effort to conceal something beneath the surface. I recognized it all too well, for I was engaged in the same silent struggle. Daniel had a golf game scheduled with his friend Frank and departed immediately after breakfast. He pressed his lips to my cheek and gave a wave to Doug, assuring us he would return by dinner. In an instant, we found ourselves alone once more. Doug kindly offered his assistance with the cleanup, and the kitchen. We navigated each other's presence with a delicate silence, the rhythmic sounds of the dishwasher and the soft swipe of cloth against counters filling the air. Beneath this facade, unspoken tension simmered. After a moment, he broke the stillness, drying his hands with a hint of resignation. "I suppose I should take my leave today," he remarked, acknowledging the weight of his stay. I turned to face him. "You're not imposing, Doug." He offered a half-smile, yet it failed to illuminate his eyes. Yet, I find myself reluctant to linger too long. I propped myself against the counter, observing him intently for what felt like an eternity. "Are you departing out of desire, or is it fear of remaining that drives you away?" That question brought him to a halt. He locked eyes with me, and for an instant, all was laid bare, vulnerable, genuine, and unguarded. "I don't want to stir up any trouble," he finally admitted. "You haven't," I replied, "not yet." He chuckled gently. That yet conveys it all that I ought to have turned away. I ought to have shifted the conversation, allowed it to fade. Yet, there was a force within me, a voice I had long ignored, that persisted in its insistence you're not alone in your feelings. I spoke softly, a sense of confusion enveloping me. "I find myself at a loss, uncertain of what this is or what it signifies. Yet, I sense it as well." He moved nearer, deliberately, as if anticipating my command to halt. I remained silent. "I often ponder how life might have unfolded differently," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "If only I had chosen another path, if I had spoken up long ago. And what would those words have been?" I inquired. He hesitated, then softly confessed that I always harbored feelings for you, even when it was deemed inappropriate. The words settled heavily, akin to a stone cast into a serene lake. An eerie silence enveloped the room. The sole interruption was the rhythmic ticking of the ancient wall clock, each tick resonating like a pulse. Then he extended his hand. His fingers grazed against mine. It was merely a fleeting contact, nothing more. Yet I remained. I allowed it to unfold. I allowed it to linger between us, a silent question we both feared to voice. "I don't want to hurt Daniel," I confessed, my voice quivering ever so slightly. "Neither do I," he replied. We lingered in that moment, suspended between right and wrong, past and present, memory and desire. Yet, we chose not to venture further, that we refrained from crossing that line. Instead, Doug took a step back. "You're a good woman," he said, his voice taut, "more than I deserve to be close at this moment." He seized his coat, draping it over his shoulder. "I'll pack up," he murmured, his gaze avoiding mine. "I will have departed before Daniel returns." I did not intervene. I merely stood there, heart racing, eyes watering, contemplating how something could evoke such fullness and yet feel so hollow simultaneously. An hour later, the front door closed softly behind him. Just like that, Doug had vanished. When Daniel returned home, he whistled cheerfully as he placed his golf bag by the door. "Did Doug leave?" I nodded, my back still turned as I stirred the stew. "Yeah, he mentioned he needed to hit the road. He left a note behind." Daniel approached, pressing a gentle kiss to my temple, his arm wrapping around my waist. "He's a good man." Always has been. I mustered a smile and leaned closer to him. "Yeah," I murmured softly. "He truly is." Yet in the stillness that ensued, I sensed a profound change within me. Neither guilt nor regret lingered. It was a sudden and profound awakening, a jarring recognition that fragments of my essence had slipped away. I had lost touch with the sensation of being truly seen, of being genuinely understood. A sense of flicker within that transcended the mundane, that defied mere duty, yet spoke of a deeper bond. And I found myself at a loss, unprepared for what this meant. Not just yet. Time slipped by. Doug remained silent. No calls, no letters. Nor did I extend my hand. Existence resumed its cadence. Serene mornings over breakfast, the evening news with Daniel, conversations with the children, the gentle task of folding laundry, nurturing the plants with water, the sort of mundane that offers a sense of solace from the surface, yet reveals an unsettling emptiness when one tunes in too intently to their inner musings. Yet something had shifted. Not within the confines of my marriage. Daniel remained unchanged. Steadfast, compassionate, and reliable. A man who had shared decades of companionship, crafted a life alongside me from the ground up, and navigated our most challenging times with remarkable poise. I adored him. That was never in doubt. Yet, the act of loving someone and the sensation of truly living alongside them didn't always align. It was a truth I had long kept buried, only to resurface when Doug re-entered our lives for that fleeting moment. He made no attempts to seduce me. He simply didn't try. He merely looked at me, truly looked, and brought forth a reflection of a self I had unwittingly allowed to fade into the background. That impression lingered in my mind. One evening, roughly a month after Doug departed, I found myself on the back porch, solitary, cocooned in a sweater, cradling a cup of tea. The garden lay in serene silence, the moon draping gentle shadows over the verdant grass. Inside, Daniel immersed himself in a documentary, while the windows behind me radiated long, inviting rectangles of warm yellow light. As I reflected on that moment in the kitchen, I could feel the quiet tension enveloping the space, a palpable electricity crackling in the air. The way Doug uttered my name carried a weight, a significance that transcended mere attraction. It was rooted in acknowledgement. That moment presented a reflection I hadn't realized was essential. In that image, I beheld a woman still brimming with longing. With wonder, for being stirred, I felt no shame. Instead, I embraced my humanity. Later that night, as I nestled into bed beside Daniel, I gazed at him. He was already succumbing to slumber, his features gently softened by the passage of time and the comfort of our shared moments. "Hey," I whispered. He stirred. "I've been thinking," I said. "I want us to go somewhere. Just the two of us. Perhaps by the coast. Or maybe up in the mountains." He slowly opened his eyes, a flicker of disbelief crossing his face. "Really?" he asked, and I simply nodded in response. "Yeah," I confirmed. "It occurs to me. It occurs to me that we require a change. A fresh start." He extended his hand, enveloping mine in a warm, comforting grip. "I'd like that," he murmured. The unspoken presence of Doug lingered between us, yet we chose to remain silent on the matter. I never revealed to Daniel just how near we were to crossing a threshold, and perhaps I never shall. For that moment transcended mere infidelity. It was a journey of rediscovery. That moment of rediscovery brought me back to my essence and to this marriage in an unforeseen manner. The following morning, I stumbled upon the small note Doug had left behind, a note I had overlooked when he departed. Uncertainty lingered in my mind. Perhaps it was fear of the revelations it might hold. There it remained, nestled in the side drawer of the hall table, wedged between a forgotten pile of receipts and a solitary spare key. It stated, "Thank you for bringing to mind the person I once was and the possibilities of who I may still become. Cherish your beautiful life." Doug, I lingered over the note, my fingers gliding along its edges. Then, almost instinctively, a smile crept onto my face. In those fleeting days, I had uncovered something precious. Not a man, not a romance, but a fragment of my being I had overlooked for far too long. In rediscovering it, I found my way back to my own life with gentler eyes and a more expansive heart. Perhaps we are granted only a handful of those moments in our lives, the ones that awaken us, that alter our perception of the world. They come softly, like an old friend appearing at your door, leaving a greater impact than they take away. Doug was one of those moments for me, and it was now my responsibility to carry the rest forward.